Hey friends, welcome back to my kitchen. If you're new here, I'm Victoria from amodernhomestead.com, and I run that website and the YouTube channel and the Instagram pages behind it as well. And so I teach traditional skills for modern life. And today I'm going to teach you how to pressure can dry beans. We're going to use pinto beans from a dried state and take them all the way to ready to eat when you open the can. I'm really excited about this. It's a great fast food recipe. I love cowboy beans, pinto beans, and we are going to be making those today. When you're in a hurry, you need a fast meal, you can open a quart, heat them up on the stovetop. Takes about 5 or 10 minutes. Throw a pan of cornbread together, and in less than 20 minutes, you've got an amazing fast food meal for your family. Before we get started though, I do want to remind you that this is a Canuary video, and I'm so pleased to be able to be a part of this. So many YouTubers have been participating in this Canuary event, where every day in January, somebody posts a different canning recipe for you to enjoy to help you get more comfortable with canning and to learn more about it. And so this is one of the last videos. It's January 30th, and January 31st will be our last day. And on that day, we're going to be doing a giveaway. It's going to be a drawing for the chance to win a pesto pressure canner. And you're going to want to go over to SuttonsDaze channel, and I'll link it below for you. To be entered in for a chance to win that. It's a live drawing, so it happens at 7 Eastern Time tomorrow, January 31st. So be sure to check that out. Link in the description. Also, I'm going to put a link to all the other channels that are participating in Canuary. Please go give them some love, comment on their videos, like their channel, and subscribe so that you can learn more from all of us. Okay, let's get started. So today I'm actually using already sprouted beans, and I'm really excited about this because sprouting is a great way to make beans more digestible, and I usually do that myself, but I found these on nuts.com. They're organic sprouted pinto beans, and they really weren't any more expensive than regular organic pinto beans, and so I'm excited to try them. It takes out a step for us. So let's go ahead and get these sorted, and we're going to rinse them off, and then we'll get them into the jars. So all I'm going to do for this is just open the bag and sort through them for any rocks or anything like that. You can see they're already sprouted in here. You can see the little sprouts, and they're already open. If you are going, I may not have shown you that. Hold on. You can see they're already opening. Some of them even have the little sprout tail on them. I'm so excited about these. There's a little sprout tail. And so if you are using regular beans, you will need to go ahead and soak them. And so what you'll do is you'll put them in a batch of clean water overnight to just soak them and really help open them up. If you want to grab these sprouted ones, I'll link them in the description, and you can grab them if you'd like. But really, I'm just going to kind of dump them out and look for these kind of really dark ones. I like to go ahead and take those out, and sometimes there's rocks. So we're just going to sort through for that really quickly. I have about 3 pounds here that I'm going to be processing, which is only going to make 4 quarts. You're going to need about 3/4 of a pound of beans per quart jar. So just keep that in mind as you decide how many beans you need. If you were sorting regular beans, I would remove any halves, any broken beans. But since these are sprouted, and that's the whole point of them, is to be sprouted, they are naturally going to be in half. If you were sorting regular beans that have not been pre-sprouted, I typically remove any halves. That may just be habit, but it is what I do. Then we're just going to dump them into a pan and cook them for a little bit longer before we can them. Then we're just going to cover it with filtered water. We're using Berkey filtered water, of course. You can use whatever filtered water you like. All right, now we're just going to cook this for about 30 minutes over medium heat. You can add a lid to it if you'd like, just to make sure that all the moisture stays in. And then at that point, we'll can it. So we're just going to bring those to a boil and then reduce the heat to medium-low and boil them at a low boil for about another 30 minutes before we start canning them. Then at that point, we can go ahead and salt them, get them into the jars, and pressure can them. So while these are boiling, let's go ahead and prep our jars and our pressure canner. These have been in the pantry, so they're clean, but I'm giving them a rinse with very, very hot water just to warm up the jar so that there isn't any temperature shock when I put in the boiling beans. Okay, so there's 5 minutes left on the beans behind us, and I've got my pressure canner out. And if you watched my potato canning video, you know how I like to make sure that my pressure canner is ready to go. But if you've never done this before, I'm going to walk you through it again. So you've got your pressure canner, and one of the things you want to do is make sure that the vent is not blocked. So you're just going to hold it up to the light and make sure you can see through it. Super easy. Secondly, if you haven't used your canner in a couple of months, if you've never used it, if it's the first time you're using it for the season, whatever, you need to make sure that you oil this little rim. Okay, so you're just going to get whatever oil you have on hand, olive oil, canola oil, whatever you have. I like to use olive oil. And you're just going to take it, get it on a paper towel, and run it all the way around the outside of the rim. And then you're going to take a clean paper towel and wipe it off. I don't have to do that today because I have been using my pressure canner, so it is ready to go. But that is going to keep it from sticking. When you are pressure canning, it's really possible for the lid to actually get stuck. And then you have to take a hammer and hit these little tines here to get it to unstick, and it's a whole big thing. So avoid that and go ahead and just oil your pressure canner. Okay, so 5 minutes left. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of water in here, and I'm going to start another little pan of boiling water so that if I need to add any on top of the beans, I can. You can see Jason walking around outside. He's currently building a cold weather frame for our peach tree. It decided to bloom about 2 months early, and we've got a whole week of freezes coming up. So he's building a cold weather frame for our Sam Houston peach tree, which decided to just full on set blooms way too early. So that's what he's doing today. Anyway, so I'm going to get this going. I'm going to get a pan of water boiling to add on top of the beans, and then we're going to be ready to fill jars. All right, so I'm just going to take the hot beans and put them into the jars. Now, I recommend using a canning funnel. But I have an 8-year-old, and I never can find mine when I need it. So we're going to put these in. Ooh, those are hot. And we're going to leave a very generous head space. So I'm just actually going to fill mine up to the bottom of the ring area. So like this little hip right here, I'm going to fill mine up to the hip. And then we'll pour salt and boiling water over. The reason that we're leaving a really generous headspace is because the beans are not actually cooked all the way. And so we want to make sure they have enough room to expand a little bit more. Beans everywhere. Like I said, highly recommend having a canning jar, canning funnel, but I'm sure that it's somewhere being part of a spaceship. So I don't have access to it right now. I need to get one and hide it from him. But I always forget. Just a quick note about why we're not using dry beans in a dry form and just putting them in the can and then putting boiling water over them and letting them cook in the pressure canner. I do know a lot of people do that. However, it's not considered a tested method, and it is kind of hard to estimate how much the beans are going to expand, and so you can have, busted jars and so on. So this is just a more tried and true method for doing it. If you want to can dry beans, go for it. I'm not going to stop you. Use your common sense and be careful. Maybe underfill them quite a lot. Do a couple of test batches and see what works for you. It's not that it's not safe to cook them that way as far as like bacteria or anything like that. But this is considered the tried and true method for canning beans. All right, so I've got a little bit left over in the pan, but I'm just going to save those and make a meal out of them. Not worry about it. It's not enough to make a full jar, and I don't want to can half a jar. So now we're going to clean the rims and get the lids and rings on. Oh, but first we have to add the salt and the water. Sorry. So I'm going to add a teaspoon of salt to each quart. If you're doing a half quart, you would just do a half teaspoon. This is pink Himalayan salt. You can use whatever kind of salt that you would like. And then we're going to add water. So I'm going to take a clean towel or paper towel and dip it in some boiling water. And then I'm just going to clean the rims. This will prevent anything from preventing a seal. So we've got quite a bit of debris here from the filling process. I'm just going to make sure that's all nice and cleaned off. That way nothing keeps us from getting a really clean seal. And you can't just wipe around the rim and call it good once. You have to actually look and see like what's going on and if you're getting everything. Because nothing's worse than spending all this time to pressure can some food and then have the seals fail. Okay, lids and rings. You can actually put these in with your hands. You don't need the jar lifter because the water's not coming up above the jar, which I really like. You'll need the jar lifter to take them out, of course, but not to put them in. Make sure they're spaced enough to where they're not going to rattle around. They are going to move a little bit during the canning process, but if you can avoid them really rattling into each other, that's a plus. So you might have to reposition a little bit. Get them in there nice and even. Okay, let's put the lid on. So if you've never pressure canned before, I'm going to give you a couple of tips to get your lid on easily and securely. So there is an arrow on the front of this lid. And there's also an arrow on the front of the canner itself. There's like a little divot. I'll show it to you. You see it? That little line there. It's not actually an arrow, but it's a divot, and it lines up with the arrow. So you're going to put it on and line up your arrow and your divot. And then you want the gap around to be even, front, back, side to side. You want it to be the same. And then you're going to start putting on your locks, okay? So first, let's make sure that this line is even. It's an art form. It's an exact science, you can tell. Anyway, once that is nice and even, you're going to take your locks and opposite sides, tighten them at the same time at about the same pressure so that you're not, upsetting your evenness. I'm going to do this all the way around. There's 6 locks on mine. And then when we're done, I'm actually going to check again the evenness just to make sure that I didn't mess anything up. All right, that looks really good. And so we're not going to put the weight on yet. We're going to let it start venting air through the vent here. It's going to start steaming. And once it starts steaming, you're going to set a timer for 10 minutes. And once the 10 minutes is up, then we will place our 10-pound weight. Okay, so it's been venting for 10 minutes, and now it's time to put the weight on. For my altitude, I'm going to be using the 10-pound weight, but I will put altitude adjustments in the description. I'm using a hot pad, 10-pound weight, right on the vent, and then we're going to let that build up to 10 pounds of pressure on our gauge. Again, be sure to check the altitude adjustments in the description. Once it hits that 10 pounds of pressure, I'm going to reduce the heat so that it maintains 10 pounds of pressure. I'm going to set the timer for an hour and a half for quarts and an hour and 15 minutes for pints. All right, we've been at 0 for 5 minutes, and we're going to use a pair of tongs to release the weight. Okay. And then I like to give it probably another 5 minutes before I release the lid. All right, moment of truth. I'm loosening it the same way that I tightened it, one across from the other. Easy peasy. And then make sure you have a good place to put this because it is very, very hot. Just going to put it here for just a second. And then I'm going to lift these jars out. Beautiful. Beautiful. So there you have it. Our beans are all canned. I cannot wait to have these in the pantry. Super fast meals. I love that they were already sprouted. That's so great. So thank you so much for being here with me on this episode of Canuary. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for the drawing for the grand prize giveaway. That's on SuttonsDaze channel. Link is in the description. Thank you so much, ForJars, for sponsoring Canuary this year. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time.